name is Jay Northcut, and I'm the mayor of the city of Melissa. Here at Melissa, we are very proud to have a state-of-the-art sports complex in our city. The Ford Sports Village at the Z-Plex offers many great amenities, including baseball, softball, soccer, football, pickleball, and more. While the city owns the majority of the land and contributes to the infrastructure in various venues, it partners with private companies and MISD on many of the fields and venues. We contract out the public-private sports complex management and maintenance to Melissa Sports, LLC, and its president, Doug Zatto. So I've asked Doug to join me today to talk about this unique facility and open the door to the inside details on how this complex works and benefits residents of Melissa. So Doug, thanks for joining us again. So can you tell us a little bit about the history of the Z-Plex? How did it start and what was the vision?
Well, it started many, many years, even before it really started. And just as Melissa got a high school and started to grow and started getting a lot of developments in here, we kind of sat down with a lot of city leaders on Friday morning breakfasts and guys said, hey, what do we want Melissa to be when it grows up? And I think at that time, a lot of people wanted to stay with like 1 acre lots and $1 million homes and no box stores and all that, and which obviously would not be a good plan for our city at that time. So at that time, a guy's running around talking about Disneyland and it's coming in this area and all that stuff, and it just wasn't true. So we wanted to get something that generated a lot of taxes to offset possibly not having all these stores and stuff. And so we went with the travel sports industry, which I was involved in, was very, very lucrative, and it brought a lot of people. So basically the Z-Plex is our Disneyland. And in order to fund it, which we didn't have the money at that time, eventually we started a park development fee. So when the city participated in it, there would be money to pay off those COs or bonds that the city's portion of. So basically, we didn't want taxpayers having to pay for it. It's a public-private. We brought as many private people as we could to participate, and that's the only way we could make it work. So it started as a dream and a vision, and today it's come true. We still got a long way to go, but it's our Disneyland, and as it's completed, it'll generate $70 million of economic impact to the city of Melissa through restaurants, hotels, and everything else that's coming. It's working.
So the city is involved, obviously. How is the city involved?
The city is involved with the infrastructure and some of the venues here, some of the soccer fields, some of the baseball fields, most of the parking lots, obviously. They create the infrastructure, and then we have private groups that own buildings. The soccer fields that we're building now is a private group. We have the MISD participating in this right now with the tennis courts, the baseball fields, softball fields. So the city's kind of the glue for everything, but a lot of different private entities and partners participate in this venue.
Now, from the city's perspective, it's a big deal for us to try to run a complex like this. So we have contracted with Melissa Sports. Tell us about who Melissa Sports is.
Melissa Sports was formed as a no-profit, not necessarily a non-profit, but a no-profit organization to maintain and manage this entire complex. We do everything from the scheduling and maintenance, everything. We have our own equipment. Everything is involved with Melissa Sports in getting that done. There's a board on Melissa Sports that is basically longtime selfless volunteers that still are volunteering in a lot of their positions to get this thing run every day. We also have an advisory board, and the advisory board has the likes of Major League Baseball player Hall of Fame players, as in like Pudge Rodriguez. We have former baseball Major League coaches. We have college coaches, Hall of Fame coaches. We have a World Cup champion on our advisory board. All of these outsiders help bring a lot of these world people here to the sports complex. We have a lot of partners to get this done. We have everything in this building here. We have everything from TCS to DBAT. DBAT is huge. There's 150 of them in the United States and overseas. This one in Melissa is probably number one, open to the public, obviously. We have physical therapy here with Vista. We have Tag, which does all of our tennis and pickleball. We have Alpha Forms, which is select soccer. We have Five Tool and Travel Sports that handle a lot of our baseball tournaments. So we have many, many partners. Melissa Sports Connection helps with all of our youth leagues and rec leagues and so on and so forth. So we have quite a few partners that help get this whole project done on a daily basis.
And you say no profit. There are other organizations, obviously, that will do this for other complexes. Do you have a feel or knowledge of how much Melissa Sports charges for what they do compared to others?
We go by a city ordinance that was made many years ago. And in that city ordinance, we have a fee of $10, I think, for grass, $20 for turf, and things like that. Our obligation, Melissa Sports, is to register everybody that plays on the field and pay the city that fee in which they do. If we upcharge for tournaments and such like that, that's where we make the extra money to cover all of our maintenance and other employees. We actually employ 100 people out here, over 100 people at the sports complex, most of which are MISD students and teachers. In doing so, that's where we charge some parking fees and things like that for people to come in, and that's the money that we use for all that extra. The city gets their money every month, and at the end of the year, any profits that are left over at Melissa Sports all is donated back to MISD or to the city of Melissa. So at the end, we try to be net zero. The bad part is if we lose a few $100,000, it's on Doug. With a pleasure.
Right. All right. So let's start covering some misconceptions about the complex. Let's start with city tax dollars and how they're used or how they're not used.
Well, the biggest misconception to start is that a lot of our citizens believe that this is a park, and it's not a city park. It's a public-private sports complex. And there's a big difference because we have a lot of private companies in here that are running tournaments and building fields and building buildings and such like that. So it's not a city park. The second misconception is probably that the city taxpayer is paying for this sports complex in some form. And like I said in the introduction, we start a park development fee for a fund of money that will pay for the bonds and COs that the city's obligated to. Another misconception is that parks are free in general. Parks are not free. If you go to any city, a surrounding community, or any city in Texas, by and large, they too have ordinances that have fees for using baseball fields, soccer fields, and so on. Even picnics, pavilions, all that. There's usually deposits and fees for citizens and for non-citizens. So we just abide by those fees, and we give that money, whether it's an MISD venue or a city venue. We record what's used and pay every month.
So I'm going to gather a guess and say that maybe the biggest, most controversial part of all this is scheduling. And people that want to play when they want to play or use the fields when they want to use it just can't always happen. But can you get into scheduling and what's all behind that and why we do it the way we do it and how people can get on the fields?
So you can imagine with a lot of private partners, of which our city's using their fields. And just for a good example, take the baseball and softball field that's basically owned by MISD on leased property of the city. We have to schedule everything. The high school baseball team obviously has home games. Softball team has home games. We actually can benefit from the partnership by having JV and freshman games going at the same time because we have the multiple fields. But we have to know when they practice, when they play. Same thing with soccer tournaments, same thing with everything else, and baseball tournaments during summer. So we have to control the schedule because mounds have to be set in certain places. Things have to be set up for the tournaments. When the tournaments and the high school and everybody else are not using their fields, at that point in time, we can turn around and use this for practices out here at City Kids, which is the biggest thing we do. And that's usually during the week. So you can imagine with rec leagues this year, we just signed up for fall sports over 1,100 kids. somebody's got to be scheduling this, and it's got to be some control of how it works. It can't be a first come, first served basis or somebody coming out and squatting. Same thing with the tennis courts. We have UIL time for MISD that we have to schedule. So obviously the public cannot be there during their time. But when that UIL time's over, kids will then be able to go into private lessons and stuff with tag, as well as the courts open up. Pickleballs have been a kind of a controversial thing lately. We have tag managing that, scheduling that. You can go on and make your reservation. If it's open, make your reservation, pay your $10 or whatever your fee is for that. But without a schedule, we would kind of have a problem.
So let's talk about Melissa kids, because again, I think there's a misconception that Melissa kids don't have favorable treatment, but they really do have favorable treatment, don't they?
Well, they do, because first of all, we have Zato Park, which is for those kids, and that is rec league. We actually do not charge the fees that go in to sign up to be on those teams and get their practices all. We actually sponsor at Zato Park for all those fields. So it's not just, we're talking about more than just the Z-Plex here. We have future fields coming that will take care of a lot of this rec league stuff that we're talking about right now too. But just any field that's open, if they would go on melissasports.com, they can get on a schedule if the field is open, and everybody can play. But it is not free. It is to a city ordinance, and that's why we need to have a schedule and know who's on the field. But it's open most of the week and most of the time for our kids.
So you mentioned fees, and we get questions a lot about why do you charge for fields and all that. So just expound on that a little bit more.
Well, again, our contract with the city is to collect the fees that the city would have collected had they been doing the scheduling and such. So we're monitoring the use of the fields and paying those fees to the city. We have an agreement where the city gives back some of that money to help us with maintenance, but at the end of the day, it's a net zero to the city, but the fees are not going in Melissa Sports pockets per se to make a lot of money. It's really just to help with the maintenance, quite frankly.
Okay. All right. The other big misconception that I hear a little more than from time to time will lead to this question. How much money does Doug Zato make on Melissa Sports and the Z-Plex?
I'm sort of embarrassed to say I'm probably out more than 8 figures in this venture that I'm involved in. So I'm out. I'm negative. But again, a lot of it's been contributions I've made to this project. A lot of it's been losses on many of the venues. I love it. Quite frankly, it's not about money for me. I have other businesses that make money. This is not a money-making entity, and sports complexes in general are not money-making entities. In fact, most of our tournaments, directors and all that want to start their own, and once they get into it, they realize they could never afford the mortgage of the venue itself. I mean, they can make money running tournaments as long as it's on somebody else's venue. It's absolutely a pleasure and honor to donate to this. It's a lifelong dream. I love kids. I love supporting it. But the only way we could help the Melissa kids is through these other partnerships that we have, which allows them to use it as well to get some money. So it's a sharing, it's a partnership deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Melissa kids have access to the fields and the courts and everything, but there's other benefits that they get because of these private partnerships, right?
Many. We'll start with DBAT. Our girls just won the state championship in softball. When DBAT's closed, we have a lot of training going on. The Melissa girls were in DBAT practicing at 6:30 in the morning, going that direction. So that's something most cities or complexes don't have, is indoor batting cages and the coaches and teachers. Our owner of DBAT is a World Series champion with the St. Louis Cardinals and such, so he knows a little about baseball, and he helps with that training with other coaches. We move over to the tennis courts with Tag, very professional, worldly known organization. They have kids out here by day and by night, but to our kids or our adults, they provide all the coaches and training. We have professional pickleball coaches at the pickleball courts. They do a lot of events and groups and memberships and everything else to help our people, whether it's just to have fun and play or to train and become better at what they do. When you get to baseball down here, we have an academy here that's taking kids their first year of college and training them to be Major League Baseball players, basically. Weight training all the way through. They play 72 game schedules. We have the Southwest Conference Championships for lacrosse out here. So we have a lot of ties with lacrosse. We have the biggest 7-on-7 tournaments out here. And a lot of those folks that are involved in all that are partners with us in training, lessons, whatever it be. So yeah, we have tons and tons of partnerships out here that come together to help our citizens as well as their private athletes.
Okay. So you're pretty knowledgeable of other facilities in the area. How does our Z-Plex complex compare to other complexes when it comes to fees and the buildings and the fields?
There's a market for all of this. As far as the tournaments and all, we're very competitive on that side. When it comes to the practices and our citizens using the field, we actually surveyed 8 to 10 different communities, the surrounding communities, and what we ended up doing is taking the lowest fee to set our ordinance with the Parks Board, to set our fee the lowest of any. So when people think that all parks should be free or are free, it's misinformation. They can Google up Allen or anybody else, and you have to get a reservation in most cases, and you have to pay whatever that fee is. So we're very, very, very competitive with every city, if not the cheapest.
Okay. You've mentioned MISD a couple of times. Talk about a little bit more about their relationship, how students take advantage of the facilities.
Yeah, so MISD had an 80-acre campus, and when they came to us and decided they were going to put the football stadium on that campus, it pretty well took up a lot of their space with all the parking. So we got in a partnership with them to put their tennis courts over here. We did a city lease of the land. They built the tennis courts. They didn't have restrooms. They didn't have a lot of that into their budget. So here at this building, which I own, we went ahead and built the restrooms for them. So again, we partnered on various things there. They then put the baseball and softball field in the middle of our 5-plex out there, which we manage as well. So now they have their baseball and their softball fields, home fields here, and we partner with them on all of that. We do all the maintenance on all their fields. We do all the maintenance on their tennis courts. The arrangement is very similar or identical to what we have as a contract with the city. Through our partners that are managing, as in, let's just take, for example, tennis. Tag manages tennis by day and night. They schedule the district tournaments, regional tournaments, all that for the school. And then at 3 to 5 during UIL time, the actual high school coaches do the coaching, obviously. But at 5 o'clock in a normal school district, the sports like golf and tennis and all that, they go off to a country club to learn their craft, and they have special trainers and such. Here, they can go right to the next court and pick up with their coach or trainer after. And what we're trying to do is build state championship tennis teams, state championship baseball teams, all of this with the venues and the extra help that we provide to the coaching and teaching here in Melissa.
Okay. So the vision casting never stops. The planning never stops. What is coming up for not just the Z-Plex, but our other parks in Melissa?
Well, the biggest things right here under construction is 7 AstroTurf soccer fields, full-length, full-blown soccer fields right now. It's a partner, U90C. They will own the soccer fields and run their tournaments on Saturdays and Sundays predominantly, 28 weekends of the year. But all the other time, we have an arrangement with them to have our practices and our kids on these fields. So what it's going to do for us is basically create 33 more little kids soccer fields. We'll be able to do football practices there. We'll be doing lacrosse when it comes. We'll be able to do cricket when it comes. A lot of other things on those fields because they're all multi-purpose. It'll put us in Melissa now up to, I think, 21 turf fields in a little town of 25,000. It's pretty extraordinary, quite frankly. But that's going on now. We're working on over at Melissa Lake Park right now to put in 10 to 14 acres of just grass. And this is going to accommodate a lot of the smaller kids that don't need a full field to practice soccer. They can come out, put cones. Our citizens can go out and picnic. They can do whatever they want, but it'll just be grass. And you'll be able to put your boundaries wherever you want. It's probably equivalent of about 30 or 40 little kid soccer fields and that'll be a public park, not a private, and we'll manage that accordingly to the rules of the city as well. So future stuff that's still coming is expanding this lake for fishing and a lot of other things. And of course, we have the Melissa Lake for fishing as well. So a lot of other venues coming. The city has bought 327 more acres for future parks. It'll take a while to get the infrastructure in, but when that comes, I think at the end of the day, we'll have enough fields and venues and everything to support the entire community and all the kids that we have that are playing sports.
I think one of the things that we haven't covered or haven't stated is that when we started this private-public partnership, we brought a facility and a complex to Melissa that a normal small town at the population of the time could never have imagined.
Exactly. I mean, in fact, we're on the map all over. We have teams from Hawaii to Puerto Rico. And in the travel sports business, everybody knows where Melissa is now, and from the sports. And I will tell you, most of them don't know how we did it, quite frankly. And I'm constantly consulting with mayors and athletic directors and anybody else that want to see this vision, how they do it. And quite frankly, most of the time they find it's too expensive. And because of our partnerships, we're able to do this. And the benefit is we have a lot of extra time that the privates aren't using it, that the public can come use it. So it's a blessing. It's a curse when we have to use it on weekends and such. But it's open really in that case for even our kids to be on teams that play in these tournaments. It's not completely closed down for them.
Yeah. Right.
But it is impossible almost for most of these other cities to fathom how we did it with the limited funds we had.
At that time, we were probably 10 to 12,000 people.
Yeah, maybe 8,000, and even less when we started thinking about it. So there was just no way to do this with the city funds that we had. And it's still, I don't know that we're still catching up with all the other infrastructure of things we have to do with our growth. So it's been a blessing to find these partners to do this. And it has its setbacks some days, and it kind of makes people give them some angst because they can't get on the fields. But we wouldn't have had it at all. So like I tell a lot of people, it's our Disneyland of Arlington. It's great, but you still got to buy a ticket 5 times. So
people wish that they could just say, we need it, and we can do it, and we can build it, but this stuff ain't cheap.
Not cheap. In fact, I don't mind saying these 7 soccer fields with all the lights, restrooms, concessions, and all the other stuff that has to go in is $20 million. So it's, you don't just print $20 million and put in 7 soccer fields. It just doesn't happen.
So give us just a few key events that we have every year and maybe some that we could get down the road.
Well, we got the Don Mattingly 17U, which are probably the best 17U players in the nation and other countries, come here every year. We got that from Surprise, Arizona. The winner of that goes to the Connie Mac. It's a big deal. We have, for those tournaments, we have every Major League Scout and every college scout is here at our place for all those events. We have the Pudge for 16Us, the Bregman, the Muncie. All those are different age groups, and those are all national tournaments. People know about them everywhere coming in. But we have the biggest 7-on-7 because of these fields now with the new soccer fields. We'll be able to host the biggest of the 7-on-7s, and that's a huge thing in the United States today. We had the Southwest Conference lacrosse championships here. We had schools from Kansas, LSU, all that made the Final 8. Texas ended up beating A&M for the finals. We get into other opportunities that are coming down, like World Cup opportunities and things like that, because of our venue to have maybe host a team. But right now we're working on a bid for the Special Olympics, the Texas Special Olympics, which is a giant deal. And most people can't even bid on it because of all the fields we have, along with the indoor with MISD, the Kenny Dills Stadium, all this in a very small area. It's perfect for like an Olympic Village, of which we're going to be hopefully getting the win for that bid, and it'll be next May.
Yeah. All right, so this is a time where if you think you missed anything that you want to say, this is the time to say it.
No, it's fun. I'd say 99% or more of this is working smoothly. It's been a joy for me. It's been a joy for all of our partners. It's been a joy for hopefully everybody in the city of Melissa that benefits from it. But I think there's a lot of misinformation, and there's a lot of uneducated people that are making statements that don't understand how it really works. And I think if they did, they'd be glad for it more than, maybe saying bad things about it sometime. Yeah.
Thank you, Doug, once again for joining me today and helping answer questions and misconceptions about how the Z-Plex and how the residents of Melissa can benefit from a facility like this in our community.